Hello! This demo shows how the traditional colour wheel is used to understand and mix colour. It shows exercises that can be used to mix the colour you see. There are three primaries: blue, red and yellow. They cannot be created from other pigments. If two primary colours are mixed, it creates a secondary colour. Secondary colours are orange, purple and green. Tertiary colours are red-orange, yellow-orange, yellow-green, blue-green, red-purple and blue-purple. They are created from a primary and secondary colour, or a larger ratio of one primary colour in comparison to the other. For example, to make green, look at the colour wheel. The two primaries on either side of the green will make it. Mix yellow and blue. Add more blue to create a blue-green. Add a small amount of blue to yellow for a yellow-green. Blue has a strong tinting strength compared to yellow, so less is needed overall. To save paint, add blue to yellow, not the other way around. Colours that have strong tinting strengths are alizarin crimson, phthalos and cadmiums. As artists, we work with pigments, not light. No pigment is pure. There are many different tubes of yellows and blues we can buy. Some blues are more purple. Some blues are greener. If a vibrant green is needed, use a blue that is more green and a yellow that is more green. Greens can still be mixed from a more orange-yellow and a more purple-blue, but it will be a desaturated, less intense green. These desaturated colours are everywhere in realistic landscapes. This means we can mix a huge variety of greens from orange and blue, yellow and black, and yellow and purple. The orange contains yellow, so it will make any blue go green. Purples contain blue, so when yellow is added, they often go green. Black often leans towards blue. If the green is too bright, it can be desaturated with the complementary colour. The complementary colour to green is red. When we add a small amount of red to bright green, whether it is one we made, a convenience mix, or a pigment green, we desaturate it. A convenience mix is just a tube of paint where the pigments are pre-mixed. These all contain more than one or two pigments. This is not a convenience mix, as it only contains one pigment. There are many different ways to explore colour. I advise using the one that works best for your brain. You can mix and make notes in a notepad, create more logical colour strings, or explore colour by painting different colour wheels. Here I'm going to show you how to use a grid system and colour strings. For the grid, draw enough columns and rows plus one for every tube of paint you wish to use. If the colours are too dark, add a touch of white. I use a neutral grey N5 for the background to help judge the values. Values are how light or dark it is. I start each string with one pigment and mix it down in increments to the other pigment. Do not try adding even amounts of paint each time. Pigments such as phthalo and cadmium are powerful. It is called tinting strength. A small amount of phthalo blue can overpower pretty much everything. Only a tiny dot of phthalo blue is needed to mix in with a lot of yellow. Here it is shown compared with ultramarine. Wipe your knife clean after every colour change to save paint. Now they are mixed, apply to the paper. Add the needed colours to the grid. The top of the column and the side of the row indicate what is in the mix. For example, I would mix cadmium yellow lemon with phthalo blue to fill in this space. There are 2 spaces for each mix, so 2 different versions can fit into our grid. We can now see what happens if we desaturate our mix using red. I am using 2 reds, one that wants to make orange and one that wants to mix purple. Do as many as you want. I mix in a little with my colour string. And paint it down by the string. I make a note of which red I used. Next, I will do phthalo green and alizarin crimson. As they are both such deep colours, I add white to see if the mix is correct. In the middle is called a chromatic black. Sometimes the middle colour will be more of a brown, as shown here with naphthalene red and phthalo green. It is because phthalo red is more orange. Orange and blue make a khaki green. How to match the colours you see. Step 1 is to assess where the colour is on the colour wheel. This green is yellow-green, so I will start with cadmium yellow lemon. I mix in a small amount of phthalo green. It is too much. I take a small amount of that mix and add it to a separate pile of yellow. Put a little bit on the palette knife and hold it against the reference to check. I squint to check whether it needs to be lighter or darker, and I check to see if it is too blue or too yellow. It is too bright or saturated, so I add some cadmium orange. You could use a mix of yellow and red instead. This makes my mix too red, so I add a little more of the green back in. Perfect. I can get the same result using phthalo blue. I start with the tiniest amount of blue and mix a yellow-green. I know that adding the orange will shift the colour slightly. So I can then add more blue or yellow as needed. It is too yellow and is a hue found in the photo, but for the purpose of this exercise, I add more blue. It looks like I have a good match here, so I add them to my colour chart, where I can see that the blue mix is slightly too green. I add more yellow, and here you can see that they are identical. As this is a khaki green, I mix Indian yellow, a yellow orange with ultramarine, a purple blue. I hold it up so I can compare it. It is a good match for the shadows. For the areas in sunlight, I add more yellow. This lightens it to the correct value. It is too bright, so I add a small amount of red. This is a great match for the browns by the water. I get a similar result by mixing my orange yellow and my purple blue. Colour mixing exercises are invaluable. Familiarity with your palette and understanding how it works will help you to mix the colours you see. Adding white to green. To make a colour lighter, add white. Titanium white is standard. When mixed with our other pigments, it changes the colour and makes them cooler. It makes pigments like greens appear chalky. To fix this, add yellow. The wet weed on the rocks in the sunshine are still very deep and blue leaning. I add too much yellow, so need to add more blue. And just a touch of red. Remember, we won't know if we have mixed the right colour at the right value until we have put it down on the paper and surrounded it with other colours. The human brain cannot judge colour and value in isolation. It can only compare to what is around it. It is called simultaneous contrast. Practice helps, but experienced artists will still need to adjust their colours and values as they paint. We can use this to make a colour seem brighter, duller, and to change our perception of its value. Surrounding a hue, colour, in its complementary will make it seem brighter. I'm showing this example with bright saturated colours, but it works really well with the desaturated colours. I have chosen Viridian Green here and surrounding it with Naphthol Red and Ultramarine Violet. If the two complementaries are of the same value, they will vibe and catch the eye. Here, the green and the red have been mixed with white to create the same value. To see if the values are the same, squint to see if it disappears, or take a photo and change the saturation so it is grey. The same is true with the values, or how light or dark something is. Here I am using the same pre-mixed neutral grey out of a tube. When surrounded with greys that are lighter and darker, it seems like two different greys. When surrounded with black, it looks lighter. The lonely swatch against the background looks different again. This is why I use neutral grey under my palette. My eyes tell me lies. You won't know if you've mixed the right colour at the right value at the right saturation until the block-in is completed. Remember that values do all the work. Colour gets all the credit. As long as the values are correct, everything else will work out. When mixing, these are the questions to ask yourself to help find the right mix. Does it need to be lighter or darker? Is it too bright or too dull? Is it the right colour? Does it need to be more yellow or more blue? Happy painting!